Good day, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mike Hockey, Head of Corporate Communications in North America, and I'd like to welcome you to the Atos webinar, Optimizing the Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Process with Digital Twin Technologies. I'm very pleased to be joined today by Niels Thompson, the Global Head of IoT, and David Selle, IoT Consultant. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me today. Before we get started, could you tell the audience a little bit about yourselves?
Yes, thank you, Mike, for inviting us. As you said, my name is Niels Thompson. I'm Danish, based out of Munich. I'm the global head of IoT and Insight in Atos, and I've been 9 years with the company, with a background in sales and digitalization and IoT.
Hi everybody, this is David Selle calling in from Zurich, Switzerland. I've been with Atos for 3 years now. I'm a consultant and business developer within our global IoT team, and my focus is on IoT and analytics for manufacturing and life science.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for joining me. You obviously bring a lot of expertise in this area. I'd like to share with the audience kind of the flow of today's webinar. So Niels, David, and I will have a short conversation about digital twin technology, and then we'll follow that up with a live Q&A session. So as we go through our discussion, I know many of you may have questions, so I ask you that you please type those into the Q&A box, and after our presentation, Niels, David will answer those questions for you. So again, gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Let's start off. What challenges do you see in the pharmaceutical industry right now?
Thank you for the question, Mike. You know, there are many challenges in the pharma industry as we speak, but main challenges that we see at the moment is, on the one side, manufacturing, here on the right-hand side, where we see issues on product inconsistency and very expensive. On the other hand, we have R&D, where the R&D life cycles are pretty long, and especially in the challenges times that we have right now with COVID, you know, this is really something that is a huge challenge to the industry. But David, you are working much closer here. What's your view?
Yeah, I think the focus here is really on those two stakeholders, R&D, working on new production methods, on how digital technology can, you know, improve manufacturing operations, and then on the right hand side, really the manufacturing operations itself. And as you mentioned, for R&D, it's mainly about you know, the time to market, and one other part here that we mention is there is often the data is often distributed and isolated in different silos, which is often the case for big companies growing with mergers, etc. And on the other hand, for manufacturing, besides what you mentioned in terms of you know, inefficient, inconsistent processes, which lead to, you know, wasted materials and just inconsistent products. The main part here, I think, is really on the industry regulations. So companies do need to prove that they comply in a continuous way, right? That their processes are compliant and the product quality is actually guaranteed.
Yeah, gentlemen, it certainly is an interesting time, and there is a lot of focus on pharma production right now. So it seems to me that requires some real talent and expertise in this market to solve some of those challenges. So do you have any suggestions?
You are spot on, Mike, here. This is not an easy challenge, and the challenge is really twofold, as we just explained. And it really takes knowledge, and a lot of knowledge from different areas to work together. So we from Atos, we bring in a lot of IoT analytics and digital transformation know-how, but that's nice, you know, and that can bring a client a long way. On the other hand, we need a lot of, you know, domain know-how and process know-how, which of course the customer comes in with. They know you know, they know the business the best. And here is really important that we talk about the business side of the customers, because this is not about IT. This is really about the core business of the client. And then we need engineering and process tooling know-how, and which one is better than to deliver that than our largest partner, Siemens, with whom we have been a partner now for more than 10 years. So if you bring those three together, this challenge can be solved. But you also need to bring them together in a way that we work as one team. So we cannot, like in old days, that we will do our IT part and the client will do their part and Siemens will do their part, and we come in at different stages to the process. We really need to merge together as one team. This is utterly important to make sure that we solve the challenge that we have ahead of us, because it's the intercollaboration between those three areas that will solve this, and where we achieve here, as we try to show, the business outcome, which is really at the heart of the project. Because this is not about a new PLM system, it's not about a new SAP system that you just implement. We're talking about changing the core business of the client, the way that they produce their core product, their bread and butter. So we're really into the business heart of the client, and we need to respect that, and we need to take this challenge really seriously, and we can do that by bringing those three parties together and work as one.
Yeah, well, those impacts are really significant. So let's talk a little bit about what the webinar is about, and that's digital twin. So what exactly is a digital twin for those who don't know?
Oh, that's a very nice question, Mark. Actually, we're trying to depict the real world in a virtual way, but it's sometimes easier said than done. But I would like to hand over to David, who has really been working in this area with the client in the most prominent project, where we are doing a digital twin as a real life process as it happens. And David has been really heavily involved in this project and bring it to a successful closure. So David, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Neil. So for me, like behind the hype, digital twin is simply a digital replica. Here we call it a virtual and connected model of a physical entity. And this entity, I mean, it can be a product, it can be a process, it can be a system. So depending on which thing you want to build a digital twin of, the digital twin can look pretty different, right? And that's also why when you ask different people about digital twin, they sometimes have a different understanding. But in the end, it's the concept is the same, right? And here, what I would like to show is to not go too theoretical, but really show by one specific example, which is a case study, as Niels mentioned, we did for one of the leading vaccines producer. And here we talk about a process digital twin, or in other words, a digital twin of their vaccines manufacturing process.
That's great. I'd like to remind folks, again, digital twin is a new technology. If you have any questions, please go ahead and enter those into the Q&A section. So David, you mentioned an example. Can you share an example of a digital twin process with us?
Yeah, and before I go to the digital twin, let's take a look at what the actual, the physical process looks like. So this is in a very simplified way. As I mentioned, it's a sub process for vaccines production, and you can see that here on the graphic. You can see we have two raw materials. We have a specific mixing process. So you can imagine those two raw materials, they need to be mixed together in a specific way with the right temperature, right flow rate, etc. In a very specific process, and the output here will be the component of the vaccine. So as the output is the actual actually part of the end product, it needs to fulfill certain quality criteria. And yeah.
Okay, continue on. I'm sorry. Continue on.
So for me, the interesting part here is that the use case, right? I mean, let's with all the technology, we always need to keep the use case in mind, and the use case here was that the process previously there was a lot of waste. As I mentioned, the end product needs to fulfill certain quality criteria. If it doesn't, if you mix those together, you get a batch of your product. If this doesn't fulfill those criteria, you have to discard it, right? And the goal here was actually to get now with digital twin technology to get kind of a real-time view on this process and to prevent deviations and to prevent batch losses.
So I think I
maybe just one
understand this
comment
is,
here.
go right ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, Mike.
Go ahead.
Just one comment here. Nowadays, without the twin, they might need to wait for 2-3 weeks to see if the mixing process actually, went in the way that they expected.
Yeah, Neil, so I think that's a great segue into our next question. So I understand this is kind of the physical process of how we're creating it, but it's a digital twin. So where does that twin or that virtual process get applied to the production?
Yeah, that we can show on this slide here, and that's actually how the digital twin works. And I like to explain it by the digital twin having a dual role. You can consider it also as two steps. And the first step is when you look from the left side to the right side, so from physical process to virtual process. This is about connecting sensors, connecting equipment, getting the live data, with the goal to analyze that data and increase your awareness of the situation, right? And for this, we not only use the live data. In our case, it was a hybrid model. We used data from experiment, but also we used simulated data. And the combination of this data allowed our team of data scientists to build models, predictive models that allow you now to monitor the process parameters, even the parameters who were before hidden, in real time, to get a visualization of the process, of this mixing process in real time, and actually to predict the quality of the output in real time. So this is the first role. As I mentioned, it's all about better understanding your process, having an online view of your process. Now the second step, and this was also achieved in this case I'm talking about. The second step goes the other way, right? It goes from right to left, and that's the optimization part. So here, based on the insights you generated in the previous step, based on that, you can actually trigger appropriate responses now in your core applications. So concretely, for our case, that means we take the model, we deploy it at the edge, close to the control system, and now the system itself is able to see a deviation coming and taking action to steer the quality back to target.
Yeah, this is some pretty cool stuff. I'm sure there's people out there on the phone or on the webinar who may have some questions. So again, please go up to that Q&A box and let us know what's on your mind, and we'll answer those here in just a few minutes. So like I said, this is really neat technology, but can you explain a little bit more? What are the benefits of using this type of technology?
For sure, Mike. So as David just explained how the process works and how we do it, and remembering the challenge we had in the beginning, which was twofold, and my comment also around currently a client, so a producer of a vaccine, for example, would need to wait some weeks to see how the components actually mix. Now, with us putting in this digital twin, let's look at the first part of the challenge, the manufacturing side. We can now tell them how the mixing is actually happening compared to how it should happen. So we have our model, we know how the optimal situation should look like, and we can now follow how the components actually mix. So this means we can also see if they are within the threshold they need to be, and we can automatically either ask the operator or directly automatically change the temperature, the pressure, or other kind of key parameters that are influencing the mixture, the chemical mixture of the components. So that means that the 3 weeks waiting time that they had is over. They can immediately see if this is going to go right or wrong, and they can adjust as we have the process running. So right in the actual production of the process. Now this gives us 2 outcomes. One is that they can produce more in the same time. So they will not need to wait. They can immediately see if this goes right or wrong. So they will have more correct batches, more correct products, which are consistent with the specs to produce in the same time frame. In the same time, they will have less waste. So currently, and please remember me correctly, David, currently they would need to adjust, I think it was 8 out of 20 batches. And we bring that down to 1 out of 20 batches. So they will use less very expensive raw material. And we're talking about material savings here, which easily can go into double-digit millions per vaccine production line per year. So the client here estimated some quite wild numbers, which I'm not going to state here because they are simply at the level of where I started even to start. It was unbelievable. But we're talking maybe up to close to 100 million euros per year for a company, just on the manufacturing side. And just to give you a feeling of how expensive those raw material is, we had a pilot running, just one pilot run, just one. And that cost the company, our client, 400,000 euros in raw material to do one pilot run with real life raw materials. You can see how expensive the raw materials are then. So you can also imagine that the savings are huge. Now look at the other part of the problem. So the R&D phase. Now here, we can now take the knowledge that we have from the manufacturing, from how the components actually mix, how they actually work together, so that the chemical components, how they actually go and mix, and which temperature, which pressure need to have, etc. All of that knowledge we can move into the R&D. Now we can then also add, how does a perfect vaccine need to look like? And you can do that from a theoretical point of view, because it's basically about chemical mixing. So you can now, with your live insight and with your theoretical knowledge, you can then build a virtual view on how the vaccine should look like and how you should be able to produce it. And now you can start to test actually up against that model. So that will reduce your R&D cycle heavily. And the client that we work with here told us that they believe if we do this right and we get the right data from the manufacturing in, they believe we can push it into a reduced R&D cycle of 50%. So this is massive. An R&D cycle in the last stages of a vaccine is sometimes 2 or 3 years. Now imagine you can reduce that with 50%. We're talking massive savings. We're talking massive increased time to market, which definitely will drive benefit for our client here. And then on the other side, you will have a lot of energy savings, which is of course impacting also your business and make your business more green. So we will also increase the decarbonization. So it's really solving a lot of issues in one go with one solution.
Well, Niels, David, thank you for a fascinating conversation on a very, very timely topic. For those of you on the webinar, there's still time to enter a Q&A into the Q&A box. I can see that a couple of questions have already come in. So gentlemen, why don't we go ahead and answer some of those? What do you recommend to companies who want to start to use digital twins?
What is the process that you would like to put into the digital twin, or what is it that you would like the digital twin to solve? So what is the actual business challenge that you have that we need to solve? So for me, that is the first and utmost, to find out what is the right starting point. Then the next step would, of course, be how to do it, which parties to involve inside my company, as well who are the partners outside that can help me. And here, our clear recommendation is to make sure that you build the right ecosystem to support you. Also to support you in a way that the pilot or the POC that you probably will start with is built in a way that you can scale it. Because you don't want to have just one successful POC, a pilot. You, of course, would like to make sure that you can scale it out into your real production and all your production lines. David, may I please add on?
I think you mentioned the most important points already. Just what I can add is that it's really important in our experience to start small, grow big. So you mean start with a few selected proof of concepts or proof of values, and as you mentioned, it's critical to look at the use case here, find something that is feasible enough, but also meaningful enough for your organization.
There's a couple more questions in the queue already. Here's the next one. Is there any relevance of digital twin in the discrete manufacturing process?
That's a good one. That's a really good one. We have built some different use cases for discrete manufacturing, which is a totally different process, of course. And we have built digital twins for products, like for automotive, etc. It basically depends on what is it that you want to solve. So yes, it could make sense, thinking top of mind, looking at the way that the assembly maybe goes, or the way that you would like to restructure the setup of the different what do you call it, production cells or production platforms within the assembly line or flow. So yes, I think it could help, but of course it depends very much on the actual issue that you would like to solve. We have looked into it and some, and here we believe there's a chance to optimize the way that the production is happening, that we maybe can help optimize that in different forms or ways. But it's of course a different animal, so to speak, than a process industry. David.
Yes, I agree. We have seen and also as Atos worked on digital twin projects for on one hand for the factory digital twin for discrete manufacturers, so where you want to have a real-time view on your production site. That can be a digital twin of your production system, meaning of all the machines and everything connected. That's what I have heard under the term of a factory digital twin. And what's also on the other hand, what's maybe special about discrete manufacturing, you can actually have the product twin if you're a manufacturer of a connected product, or of, for example, a manufacturer of a production machine itself, right? They also talk about the digital twin of the product itself, and that product in the end can again be placed in your end client's manufacturing facility. So it's a bit like I would say a cycle here for that.
Well, I'd like to remind folks there's still time to type in a Q&A and we can answer that for you. I've got another question in the queue, gentlemen. What are the biggest challenges when it comes to implementing a digital twin?
The challenge is to yeah, it's a good question. So the challenges is, as I said in the beginning, we talked about what is the things that you need to be aware of when you start and how to get started, is to ensure that you have built it in a way that you can scale. And again, you want to have the same digital twin on all your production lines or all your shop floors or what, all your products, whatever it might be. Otherwise, it does not make sense. So it needs to be something that is scalable. Typically, you would like it also to be rolled out in a way that you can ensure that it can be, of course, maintained and that we can build services around it, that the twin can be monitored in a way that we make sure that it works as it should, and that the sensors that are feeding the digital twin are working as they should. And then the next part you need to find out is, would I like to run it totally in the cloud? So this is about the latency issues that you may have or not may have. Or do I want to have it in a kind of a hybrid model where the twin actually runs on an edge device, and then at once a day or once a week or whatever it could be, synchronize with the cloud, get the news model updates and learnings from the other digital twins that I have at the same place at a similar production line, so that it gets more clever and more updated every day. So that is another part that you need to ensure, and you need to ensure that the partner or the vendor that you choose actually can supply all your production line, and also be able to at least have the capabilities to manage it end to end. It may not be that this vendor are going to do it actually end to end, but at least they have the capability to do it so that they can build a solution in a way that it is manageable end to end.
Yes, as Niels mentioned, there are challenges in all different areas like process, people, and technology. Let me add to that maybe two concrete challenges I have seen with pretty much all the clients on the technology side, and the first one is data. So is there enough data available? Talking about historic data that has been recorded, is this data can you access this data? Is the data clean enough? And so on, to really make to have enough let's say data to build your digital twin. The second part is simulation, and that's kind of a tricky topic, because you need to think of when you build a digital twin, you need to think how much simulation do I need? What's the goal of my digital twin? And maybe you can reach that goal without having 100% simulation covering your whole physical process. Maybe just covering a few parameters is enough, and that will help to to reduce the time spent with this, I would say, quite costly task of creating physical simulations.
Well, David and Niels, I do not see any more questions in the queue, so I'd like to thank both of you for joining me today. I'd also like to thank those on the webinar for joining us. And with that, I'll wish everyone a good day and thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Goodbye.